Hi, I'm Pam Sutherland from True Star Talent, and I'm here with the very talented Duncan Turnbull. Hello, Duncan.
Hi Pam, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
This is all about you. So, with that in mind, can you tell me a bit about your industry experience, please?
Yeah, how long have you got? Goes back. Whoa. I joined Friends Providence back in 1984. Um, by then, I'd spent 4 years straight from school at Midland Bank. But 4 years working at the bank is enough for anybody. And I'd certainly quite quickly decided it wasn't really for me. So an opportunity came along to work with a life insurance company in Liverpool. Started off working, as they called it then, on the inside. So doing all the admin work, dealing with all the proposals that came in, dealing with the brokers, some small single business ones, some large ones like Midland Bank, for example, Midland Bank Insurance Services, as they were back in the day. Um, and that sort of kind of started to tweak my interest a little in terms of what were these things that I was dealing with, because I'd not really had any great knowledge or experience of finance or insurance or assurances up to then. So there were these strange things called sort of low cost endowment policies, and there were uh, max, MIPS, there were offshore MIPS, there were bonds, and as I was dealing with these, I'd sort of keep kind of asking, what's this do? What does that do? How do they work? So I started to build up a bit of a sort of knowledge of the sort of practicalities and some of the legislation around some of these sorts of products, as well at the same time dealing, over the phone with the brokers who are actually selling them to clients. This is all pre Financial Services Act, so there was no fines as such to speak of, anything at all like that. So did that for about 18 months. Got a real interest in it, and I got an invite from my manager to say would I like to go on a trainee inspector course. So that's when you go out on the road on the outside, and you'd have your own patch, and you'd have your own kind of bank of brokers that you deal with and try to convince them to use Friends Provident. Friends Prov at the time were, a well-respected business. They weren't too big, they weren't too small. Um, Obviously, they had the Quaker background. So they were one of the very first, I always remember they were one of the very first businesses to introduce an ethical fund. They called it their stewardship fund. And that, even back in the day, then this would be about 85, 86. I was thinking, wow, that's a bit different. That you would have a fund there that positively tries to avoid, arms, tobacco, all that kind of stuff. And you think how far ahead of the time they were at that stage. So I did that, got through all the inspector training. And I remember I was on one particular course, and we started to cover protection in more detail. And the trainer put on a video that he called The Widow Story. Now, I think virtually anybody now in financial services has heard of The Widow Story. So I watched that, and it had a really profound, genuinely profound effect, because for the first time, I really saw these products as more than just products, but you saw what they can do, and the impact they can have. I know everybody kind of looks back at that now and go, well, it's kind of ancient history in terms of the video, but it kind of hit home to me, and I was kind of taught at the time that what effectively within the industry we do is that we protect income first and foremost. We protect wealth and we generate wealth. And in simple terms, that's what everything around financial services is about. So with that kind of knowledge kind of build up, and then an opportunity came along 3 or 4 years later to join the Halifax. So this would now be 88 as an area manager. believe it, or as they called it back in the day, area insurance consultant. And I'd manage a team of people within the Halifax providing financial advice to Halifax clients. So I thought I'll give it a go. I was lucky enough to get a job. I thought I'd give it a couple of years, and I think 24 years later, I eventually left, and it was just the best 24 years probably of my working career. I learned so much from it, and just watched this organization grow from literally right at the very start. We were IFAs, literally through to the big bank assurance monster that the Halifax became. And I know there's views either way of bank assurance, and whether it worked or not. But I think for the first time there was the opportunity to provide proper financial advice to a mass market, and regulation compliance obviously has kind of increased since then, and it's just become far too costly to do it now. The last 5 or 6 years there, I worked in the wealth business. I wanted to improve my sort of knowledge even further, and so I worked on the bosses side and latterly the Lloyd's wealth side. Lucky enough to become a regional manager, looking after a team of area consultants, a team of consultants, and thoroughly enjoyed it, and saw again, financial planning, but at a much higher level, more complex level. And I got a lot from that. I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot about why we do what we do, but also the what it takes in terms of an advisor to be successful in that business, but also to do it the right way, to act with integrity, and always, it's got to be what's right for the client. That has to drive everything that we do. Opportunity came along after that to take voluntary redundancy, as you know, at Lloyd's, everything started to get scaled back. I did that, took a little bit of time out. Then I went to the complete other extreme, and joined a very small sort of boutique third-party compliance supplier in Leeds called TCC. And wow, was that a wake-up call in terms of working in a small business, and that supplier relationship and the value of work, and how there's nobody there to do it for you. You can't turn to the person next to you and go, "Can you do this, please?" It's you, and that's it. And you were marketed. In my role, I was marketed out as an operations manager. That had a certain price per day to a supplier, and you then had to make sure that you obviously delivered on what was expected from the proposals around that. So I learned an awful lot working in a small business, really, and that kind of stuck with me, in terms of the value of work, and how, if you're going to do something, then sometimes you're better off just getting on and doing it yourself. And then lastly, great opportunity, great 5 years at Hargreaves Lansdown, a company that I love. I think it's a great business, brilliant people there, great advice, great setup. There's things that need to be improved internally in terms of systems, etc. But fundamentally, it's a business that I will not. I'd never say a bad word about it. I had a fantastic 5 years there, and then personally, grandkids came along, and you think to yourself, you need to just reconsider your whole work-life balance. So I decided to step away from that, take some time out, and then having done that, working in recruitment is something it's always been interesting to me, because I've always been on one side of the fence, and now there's an opportunity now to kind of effectively see it from the other side of the fence. So sort of from 1984 really to 2024, there's a wide range of experience within the business: bank assurance, wealth, first line management, second line management, compliance, small supply firm, value of work, and a completely different organisation like Hargreaves, and again, sort of a regional manager kind of role there, and everything that they do as well. So yeah, it's been a varied 40 years or so, but enjoyed it.
Fascinating. So moving on now to sort of what you're going to be doing now.
Yeah,
Why are you choosing to do this?
I think I slightly alluded to it just a few minutes ago. I throughout my entire working life, I've always been a recruiter in terms of I've always kind of been going, give me the CVs, give me the people, we'll do the interviewing, we'll do the assessment, and then you make the decision based upon as much information as you possibly can. So that's all I've ever known. But with that, you learn an awful lot as well. So you get a feel for, what's the kind of person, what kind of person you need for certain roles within the company that you work for, or the business that you work in, or the type of business that you work in. And also, I like to think you learn a lot in terms of what is it that makes people successful in those roles. So this is an opportunity for me now to kind of almost go, this is the flip side of the same coin, but okay, I've now got the opportunity to kind of, in essence, kind of impart that on potential candidates for businesses based upon the different needs of those businesses. And what excites me slightly is that there's obviously different businesses out there that have got different requirements, different needs. As a recruiter, you have the need for your business and your need only. Here, you've got a number of different potential people to satisfy, I guess. And then it's just the job then of who's the right person for the right role for the right business. Genuinely is something I'm excited to get stuck into and to use what I've learned, the knowledge I've got, to hopefully help that work as smoothly as possible.
And if we look at what drives you, what do you care about mostly in terms of your values?
Um, Honesty, doing the right thing, and I know that sounds awfully twee, but sometimes you do things not because you have to, but because it's the right thing to do. And I've always believed that, and that really probably more than anything is the most important thing to me. So doing the right thing in a work context can be doing the right thing for the client, doing the right thing for your work colleague, doing the right thing for the business, and being honest about that at the same time. So when you look at potential candidates as a recruiter, the right thing is you always treat people with respect. For example, no matter that they may be a million miles from what you're looking for, you always treat them with respect. So that probably is one of the most important things. And doing the right thing then is making sure you represent your organization in a positive way, so that a candidate goes away from the experience thinking, okay, ultimately I may not have got a job, but that they're a really good company, they have a good reputation. So I think it's that honesty, that integrity, that doing the right thing all the time is what would drive me the most in all of this.
Thank you. So tell us something that you enjoy outside of work, or maybe something that people would be surprised to hear about you.
There's probably a number of things that people wouldn't be surprised to hear about. I like a beer, I like a glass of wine, and you know, I do quite enjoy getting out and about a bit, and music and stuff like that. But I think if I had something that would be a little bit, kind of, I just keep it to myself a lot, is that I'm really, really fascinated by history. And I love history and I love understanding history. I love, and I think I put in my questions, I love reading historical fiction novels, mainly because there's a good story, but there's also intertwined the reality of what happened at the time. Having said that, I do like factual history books as well. I've been fascinated with it since school, really, and it was certainly an option to go to uni and do a degree in history, but I chose to go to work instead. And I think it's just something that you can learn so much from to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes again. And also, it provides really for me just living and non-living evidence of just how things move on. We're living through history now. Um, some of it is a bit challenging. I get that, but it's history, and we'll look back at it. Well, maybe not we, but our ancestors will look back on this period and go, well, there's actually quite a lot going on at this period of time, but we need to learn from it, and we need to learn from the past to make sure that some of the stuff that's happening at the moment doesn't get repeated and things like that. And history can tell us that, and that's why I think it's interesting, and also it's challenging. There are some history books I've read, political ones, for example, and I'm not being political now in this, uh, where it's been about somebody who I may not be particularly politically aligned to, but you still read the book because you can challenge yourself then in terms of your thinking and your understanding, but also then it does help, I think, give you a sense of perspective about things as well. So yeah, I would bore, as I probably am doing already, Pam. I would bore people all day long about history, even old history. You can learn so much from really old history as well. I mean, something I learned last year, which I didn't know this, that during the War of the Roses, the biggest single bloodiest battle that was ever fought on British soil was only 40 miles from where we live. And it's like, wow, I did not know that. There was more people killed in that one day than there was at the Somme. That's how bad it was, and that was English on English, So just shows how much we have moved on, and how we'll continue to move on as well. And the history tells us that. So yeah, history would be the one thing that I would say is a bit of a hidden secret.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
So, in closing, then, is there anything that you would like to add here at the end, Duncan?
As I, as I alluded to, I've always been the recruiter rather than the person kind of presenting the candidate. So that's going to be a challenge as well. But I'm excited to be able to use the knowledge and the experience I've got of 40 odd years in the industry, in trying to help candidates looking to get and achieve the long-term goals that they want to.
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
No problem. That's fine. Cheers, Pam. Thank you.